Hello, friends. My name is Igor Gavryshchak. I represent the YouTube platform of Channel 24. Today is the 15th of June, live broadcast. I ask you, as always, to be active. Write your questions, subscribe, indicate where you watch us from, give us likes, and share our conversation. We will discuss the situation in and around the Caucasus, the role of Russia, as well as Turkey and Russia in Syria, and of course, Chechnya. President of the community organization, Ruslan Kutayev, Assembleya Narod Kavkazu. Ruslan Mahamdeyevich, excuse me, please. Hello, good evening. Can I just say Ruslan? Greetings to you, greetings to your viewers. Thank you very much. Ruslan, first of all, I would like to ask you about what happened today. I understand that the Ukrainian Defense Forces decided to launch strikes against Kadyrov's facilities on Tuesday because of the arrival of an unmanned aerial vehicle on the 12th of June. And so this morning, December 15th, a drone strike on the military infrastructure in Grozny. They say that this drone hit the Oman base in the 2nd Regiment, and there are even unconfirmed rumors that there is also a training base there for the Kadyrovtsi for the war in Ukraine. How true is this, and why were these particular sites chosen for the strike? I am sure that the Ukrainian military and military intelligence are striking at more serious facilities, and there are such facilities in the Chechen Republic. This is, first of all, Ankara, the airfield where helicopters and planes are based and where the leadership of the FSB and the Ministry of Defense are concentrated. And those strikes that are being carried out, this is important. It is worth paying attention to. These strikes, where there is at least a platoon or two of Rosguard troops, no matter the regional subordination, are not such significant targets. The Ukrainians, based on experience, choose to attack really important facilities where strategically important decisions are made. I have asserted this from the beginning and continue to do so. By the way, just now the expert reports have just come in. From the footage that came in, it was determined that they found a Russian flag on the tail of the drone. That's the FSB. Russia is attacking Kadyrov's units. When the Ukrainians strike, they direct it at Ankara or the FSB building complex in Chechnya. These are the more serious targets that matter. The others are of little importance. So I repeat once again, these are not Ukrainian drones, because such a slow-moving drone with low speed has to move almost 24 hours. It doesn't work like that. Tell me, please, why did the FSB decide to attack? Kadyrov's relations with the security services have always been complicated, but why now? What did Kadyrov do? Did he do something? Or could it be related to wildberries? Recalling Dagestan? Yes, Dagestan comes to mind. It's the same story. No, these are minor events deliberately hyped up by the Moscow media. They were trying to draw attention to the conflict between Kadyrov and Kerimov. There is nothing of the sort. Such events happen every day in Russia. Kadyrov plays no special role in this. This is the situation inside Russia itself. Russia's economy has actually failed, and after the new year, production and industry are expected to fall, and prices are expected to skyrocket.
большого провала российской экономики
Russia is on the verge of economic failure. This is a prelude to a big crisis of the Russian economy and power. In this regard, with the impending economic crisis in Russia, the various structures are divided. There are pro-Putin ones, including the Rosgvardia, and Putin's opponents, the FSB. This is no secret to anyone. The enemies inside Russia have been identified, and now they will have to present them to the people to justify their actions. Ukraine is no longer so important to them. They want to defeat Muslims, Caucasians, to create a post-Putin Russia, and they are already working in this direction. So this is a huge army to suppress within Russia itself, and Kadyrov and his army are the two people closest to him. Because of the conflict between the FSB and its allies, Putin and his cronies, Kadyrov has fallen into the opposite group from the FSB, and hence their squabbles. Ruslan, what's interesting is that just the other day, Kadyrov said that, if I'm not mistaken, Bastrikin and Kolokoltsev, the head of the Interior Ministry and the Investigative Committee, have long been out of their places. Is this part of what game, or are these seriously fearless cadres who allow themselves to make such statements? Or is it part of a cover-up? Kadyrov would never allow himself such a thing. It is his rule. He has set himself a rule according to his agreement with Putin, and he will never do anything without consulting Kadyrov. I want to send you back a little bit in history. Do you remember when Prigozhin and Kadyrov actually clamped down on Shaiga and Gerasimov? It was a commission from the administration at Putin's behest, but when they saw that it was having negative consequences, then the command was given to stand down. Kadyrov immediately stopped. Prigozhin continued against the wishes of Putin and the presidential administration, and we know how things ended with Prigozhin. Now, this is also a directive from the Kremlin, from Putin, to indicate that Putin knows that Kolokoltsev and Bastrikin have defected to the FSB and are plotting against him. This is a signal that Kadyrov voiced, but Putin sent it. This is the whole point. These are not Kadyrov's improvisations, nor are they his own fabrications. He exclusively acts as he is instructed to do by his chief superior. Ruslan, I'd also like to bring up what happened in Syria, or is happening. Let's put it this way. I understand that the rebels won in Syria. They ousted Assad, who was sheltered by Putin. Now Putin is trying to negotiate with the rebels, supposedly offering friendship, but he has Assad, whom he wants to destroy. The total winner in this whole mess, to put it mildly, is Erdogan. And what's interesting is that now, in Turkey itself, those who are very much celebrating Turkey's victory in the region have started to remember that they can take on Crimea. They started saying, why not kick Putin out of Crimea? How realistic is that? How much imperialism does Erdogan have, and can we talk about Crimea and his ambitions? First of all, from the very beginning, I want us to be clear. If even Erdogan, due to certain conditions, steps in for Crimea, he, yes, at least in the current geopolitical situation, the state of affairs in the world, will never do it in order to tear Crimea away from Ukraine. This is absolutely unambiguous. Turkey, as a political and military player, always behaves very cautiously. I can say for sure, as a person representing one of the North Caucasian nations, that even in the times of the late 17th, early 18th century, when Sheikh Mansour fought against the Russian Empire, and during the time of Imam Shamil, Turkey never decided to side with the Highlanders against Russia, because there was no situation in which the Ottoman Empire could decisively defeat Russia. Therefore, Turkey does not make hasty decisions in this regard, and I can safely say that it will not interfere here. Here it could be different. The government in exile, the parliament, headed by Shemiliev, these Tatar and pro-Ukrainian Ukrainian politicians could turn to Erdogan, and he could take a fairly concrete position on the side of Ukraine, up to and including outright supplying arms to Ukraine. But there have to be accompanying conditions for that, which are not there yet. As far as Syria is concerned, there is no doubt that in Idlib, the army of the opposition forces was trained, armed, and equipped. Turkish military specialists conduct amazing command training and operations wherever they operate, whether in Azerbaijan, in Karabakh, or in Syria. It was they, the Turkish generals, who prepared the plan, the strategy, and the tactics of waging war and fighting here and there, and it was very successful. First of all, they rely on amazing intelligence information. They know what is going on there, what kind of weaponry, what kind of forces are on the enemy's side. Turkey has succeeded in this respect. Analyzing these and other actions in military operations, I, not being a military expert, but quite experienced at my level, can say that Turkey, in matters of military operations, has advanced very seriously. So yes, the victory of today's Syrian opposition is a victory of Erdogan, a victory of Turkey, of the Turkish people. But Turkey poses absolutely no danger to Ukraine and Crimea. Ruslan, what is happening in Georgia now? Because yesterday, literally on December 14th, an ex-football player became president. For the first time in Georgia's history, the elections were not normal, when Georgians elected a president, but delegated their rights to the electors. Zurabishvili has already said that she will not leave her post. I understand that Ivanishvili is trying to usurp power by all means. How much Russia is involved there, do you think? Or is Russia satisfied with what Ivanishvili is doing, and they are just watching? No, of course. And my friends, members of the Assembly of Peoples of the Caucasus, my assistant on humanitarian aid, humanitarian volunteer aid of the entire Caucasus to Ukraine, Soso Babayev is involved. He was beaten up, wounded in 3 places, stitched up. Today, our activists continue. The Georgian activists continue to fight in the squares and streets of Tbilisi. The entire arsenal at the disposal of the pro-Russian government has been put into action. No one doubts that Russian activists, FSB activists, instructors are in Georgia, in Tbilisi. They are training them and giving them instructions on how to act. Because Georgia for them is, imagine, if the pro-Russian, pro-Kremlin government of Georgia is expelled now, it will be a geopolitical shock for Russia. They have already failed in Syria, and if they are forced to flee Georgia, you can definitely say they are draining water by raising their hands at the Hague court hearing. That is why the pro-Russian government will go to the end. But I can safely say I have daily information from the streets and squares of Georgia. The Georgian people are determined. The Georgian society realizes this and acts. By the way, they are holding very interesting events. Agricultural workers are marching in one column, IT workers in another, welders in a third, teachers, doctors, like this, according to their specialty, dividing their society. This is an innovation that entertains them a little bit in this difficult situation. And in this way they are building, but on a professional level, the assets being built are much stronger. Georgians have seen this method and will probably apply it in other regions and countries when they defend their freedom. Everything's fine in Georgia so far. I think that by the new year, everything should at least become clearer. I always ask the same question. Who will endure? The Moscow-backed government, or the Georgian people, Georgian society, or the Kremlin proxies? So far, the mood of the Georgian people and Georgian society is amazingly good. President Zarubashvili has done the right thing. Those parliamentary elections were rigged. Nothing is legal in Georgia now, just like in Russia. That is why we need to protest, we need to chase them away, and I hope that this will happen. At least, all the prerequisites for this are in place. Ruslan, I have the impression that Europe, too, and the United States of America is watching from the sidelines a little bit because they're imposing sanctions on the authorities. But how are they helping the protesters? Unfortunately, the position is weak. I spoke to the opposition leaders, we explained, we talked too, because we also have Chechen experience of opposing Russia, Putin, the Kremlin, and here I think we understood. Here, we have to rely solely on ourselves. If the Georgians make such a turn, that people will relentlessly continue to bend their line in the direction of Europe. I am convinced America and Europe will be more strongly supportive. Unfortunately, the expectations of Ukraine, Chechens, and Georgians from Europe were different. Europe and America, in fact, have always supplied Russia with money and weapons against us. They have never helped. But thanks to Europe, I say again, and I speak for the overwhelming majority of the Chechen people, that they have accepted our refugees, provided them with jobs, security, and their children are studying. In this respect, we are grateful to Europe, but we should demand as much as they can, as much as they are ready. Therefore, a lot needs to be done now for the Georgian society, to raise the Georgian people. Ruslan, I would like to return to the question of Chechnya. What is the current situation inside the republic? Who influences everything? To the extent that the Ichkerians themselves realize that Kadyrov's power is artificial, that it rests on force, that it rests on intimidation, that they remember history, that 100, 200, 300 years ago, the Russian Federation, the Empire, exterminated Chechens, exported them, the First and Second Chechen Wars. All this is remembered in Chechnya. The first unit of any society is the family. Chechens, perhaps, differ from many nations in that this primary unit, the family, has always been very strong. It is thanks to a strong family that we got what we had and continue to have. Today, we should not deceive ourselves. Kadyrov's power is unchallenged, and today they actually do whatever they want in the Chechen Republic. They are forcibly sending people to war against Ukraine. There is no force that could even try to oppose this arbitrary behavior. But it is important to note here that we are doing everything to prevent even the slightest outburst of opposition. Why? Because we don't have the power to counter it. In order to survive, we need to concentrate this material, this nuclear material, that will break through and win. Therefore, it is now very important that there's a split in the very power of the Russian Federation which has happened. For Ukraine to win, there are a huge number of disgruntled people. And what I started with, the family. The Chechen family did not let Putin, his ideology, the ideology of the Russian world, in. They remember there because parents go to the graves of their murdered sons, take care of the graves. Many of them are alive. Children have grown up on the graves, always taking care of the graves of their fathers, uncles, and grandfathers. Nothing is forgotten. Everything is remembered. We just need the accompanying conditions. We need to be able to wait, to concentrate, to gather in a single fist, and this single energy will become a force. Syria is an example for everyone. In Idlib, they gathered, waited, and won. Exactly the same scenario will happen in the Caucasus, 1-to-1. I really hope so, Ruslan. I really hope that you have the patience, because it's also an art to be able to wait for what you're talking about. Sometimes it's not enough. Thank you for the conversation, for taking the time to rant about important processes. Have a nice day. I would like to remind our viewers that we talked to Ruslan Kutayev, president of the public organization Assembly of the People